The 5 champions of the 2012 Master Series were decided on the track of Castelletto di Branduzzo after a great weekend of challenges. More than 200 pilots from all over the world competed and gifted us with a great show and brilliant challenges. The first 2 rounds, held on the track of La Conca and Sarno, were not decisive enough to elect any champion. It was thus necessary to resort to Castelletto di Branduzzo to crown the champions of each category. Talking about a Mini 60 series, it is Leonardo Lorandi, Tony Kart driver from Brescia, to lead the overall standings. Leonardo has to fend off from the determination of the Spanish Eliseo Martinez, hero driver, and of the Italian Pietro Mazzola, also behind the wheel of a hero kart. Leading the ranks of the KF3 series is the English George Russell. The intrepid pilot will have to deal with compatriot Callum Millett and the Canadian Les Stroll. In KF2, it is the Dutchman Max Verstappen who is holding a claim for the trophy of the WSK Master Series. Following in his father's footsteps, in his debut in KF2 he swapped from CRG to Intrepid and gave ample demonstration of how a talent can grow regardless of his technical means. Thwarting the march of Verstappen is Felice Etienne, CRG, and English Tom Joyner at the wheel of an LH. In the KZ2 series, after 2 tight rounds, it is the English Jordan Lennox Lamb leading the standings, just a few points ahead of his adversaries. Behind the CRG pilot, the Italian Marco Zanchetta stands ready. The Energy driver will attempt to charge for title in the last 2 finals scheduled on Saturday and Sunday. We surely cannot forget the exec Jan Midderla, third in the standings and aggressive behind the wheel of his Birel. Last but indeed first, it is the KZ1 series where great champions race. Marco Ardigo leads the standings before both the quick and treacherous Arnaud Kozlinski, official pilot of PCR, and the insidious and fast teammate, Belgian Rick Redezin. This is what the stage of the weekend looks like when it is time to enter the track of Castelletto di Branduzzo. The asphalt will soon turn hot, as it did at Sarno just 2 weeks ago. During the all categories free practice, after hundreds of kilometers ground under the wheels of the karts, the Mini 60 pilots were the ones to break the ice of the qualifications. The Italian Leonardo Lorandi scored his last pole position of the season, ahead of the Italo-American Delvin De Francesco and of the English. In KF3, it was yet an Italian driver to pull off the fastest lap of qualifications. Luca Corberi was ahead of everyone else with his Cosmic kart, preceding Alessio Lorandi on Tony kart and Callum Millet on Zanardi. In KF2, the Dutch Max Verstappen confirmed once again his superiority. Behind the wheels of his Intrepid, Max pulled off the last pole of the season, ahead of both the Italian Paolo Ippolito and the Danish Niklas Nielsen, both on Cosmic. The battle for the last pole of the season among the KZ veterans was awesome. In KZ2, the British Jordan Lennox Lamb pulled off the best time. The CRG driver is first in the overall standings, just ahead of the Czech Jan Midderla on Birel and of the Italian Francesco Celentano. The latter has caused uproars of ecstasy into his fans during the splendid duel in Sarno 2 weeks ago. Finally, the queen of the categories, the KZ1. The challenge to conquer the last pole of the season boosted the Dutch Jory Pax ahead of everyone else. Driving a CRG, Pax won the pole with a perfect lap. Fabiano Federer on CRG and French Arnaud Kozlinski on PCR came in behind the Dutch driver. Marco Ardigo was sixth. Among the new countries which surfaced in the motorsports world, Russia is almost the most prolific in new talents. It is maybe due to Formula One Petrov or to the astounding work by the Russian Federation, but today there are bunches of Russian drivers steadily growing. Soon, some of them might even debut in Formula One. Daniel Kvyat and Sergei Sirotkin are the most interesting names. The first, after the WSK experience, is currently driving in Formula Renault, where he recently dominated the 2 races in Monza. Sirotkin, once he measured his talent in WSK, made a landfall in the International AutoGP series, standing out right at his debut and becoming the youngest winner in the history of the category. Nowadays, in the WSK series, Russia is represented by the Komarov team that we introduced in this interview.
Hello, I'm Sergei Chukanov, I'm from Komarov Racing Team. We are driving WSK in 2012. We have 4 drivers in KF2 and 2 drivers in KF3. In KF3 we drive with Sitnikov, who is really fast, and we are trying to do really good results, maybe win the championship. Also we have Staniszewski, who is not so fast but improving through the season. In KF2 we have 4 drivers. It's Rudakov, Korolevsky, Godovanyuk and Karpov. Karpov and Godovanyuk start this season from KF3 to KF2, so it's hard for them to drive now. But Rudakov and Korolevsky are good. As you know, Rudakov won some races in last season. So it will be interesting for us to drive the championship. We drive WSK because it, for our opinion, is one of the best championships in the world. So if you want to be faster, you should drive with WSK. Yeah, the motorsport in Russia are growing from year to year. Now more and more drivers start to drive in Italy in WSK, so every year we become faster and faster. Our goal for this season is always to win, the maximum.
Saturday was characterized by the qualification matches. After the free practice, decisive clues about the most promising claimants to the title could be spotted. In minute 60, Leonardo Lorandi remained focused throughout the day, fending off the attacks of his opponents. Max Futrell was excellent too. The English, sanctioned in Sarno for a contact with an opponent, showed his ability and his prowess on the track of Castelletto. The performance of James Poole, Peter Mazzola and Devlin De Francesco were also noteworthy. The KF3 results of the English Callum Millot and Luca Corberi were worthy of highlighting. The return to victory of Lorenzo Travisanuto was an awesome surprise. Surprisingly enough, the leader of the standings, George Russell, stood in the background. In KF2, Felice Etienne, with 2 victories, sends a strong message to Max Verstappen. The Dutchman wins the heats of Sunday morning, answering with grace to Etienne's challenge. In KZ2, Jan Miderla wins both the qualification matches, with Marcus Zanchetta and Francesco Cialenta right at his heels. They promise an hard-fought battle for the last 2. Finally, the KZ1, which in the first 2 rounds of qualification is utterly dominated by Italians, thanks to Fabian Federer, official CRG driver from Bolzano. The top of the standings met with some difficulties. Marco Ardigo came in 4th position twice. Rick Dreesen didn't do any better and Kozlinski was not able to complete the second qualification. Following here is a collection of spectacular images that we recorded during the numerous qualification rounds. From the qualifying hits right to the first pre-final, the minute 61. Devlin De Francesco takes command of the race right from the first lap. The Italo-American driver is ahead of Mazzola, Mortono and Sebastiano Fernandez, author of an excellent start. The challenge has been heating up right off the bat when the Italian Pietro Mazzola took the lead of the race in the second lap, with Max Futrell following and De Francesco in 3rd position. Once in the lead, Mazzola forced a raging rhythm on the race, but Futrell and De Francesco remained at his heels. Leonardo Lorandi surged up from the back alleys of the race by gaining positions lap after a start from the 6th row. During the 5th of 8 laps, Devlin De Francesco overtakes Futrell and gains the 2nd position. The Englishman loses his clear head and is passed by the competitor James Poole. The race rages on like this up until the end, when Leonardo Lorandi stops his onslaught, conquering the 3rd place behind Pietro Mazzola and Devlin De Francesco. These latter 2 were protagonists of a final dash, which was won by 72 thousandths of a second by Mazzola. 360 to KF3, which was divided into two groups. In the pre-final A, Luca Corberi boosted forward right from the front row. The Cosmic driver had no problem in disposing of his opponents, especially of Alessio Piccini, who had started beside him. Behind Corberi, Martin Kodrick, Alex Palou and Dorian Boccolacci popped up. While in the lead, Corberi pushed the race with a vexing rhythm. Behind him, Alex Palou successfully attacked Kodrick to the second position. Kodrick paid Palou back in the following lap, regaining his former place. Even if the positions of the top of the race were stable within a few laps' time, the comeback from the end of the standings of Simone Cunati was a beautiful one. The Comer driver recovered from the 16th position up to the 5th place. The positions didn't really change until the end of the race. Luca Corberi won ahead of Martin Kodrick and Alex Palou. In the pre-final B, Russian Nikita Sitnikov started from the pole position. The Komarov team had the English Callum Millett right at his side. The race was beautiful but fought, with Alessio Lorandi starring as a top-notch protagonist. The baby race driver, starting from the second row, managed to take the lead during the first few laps. Behind him, the English Callum Millett gained the second position after his overtake of the Russian Sitnikov. The Canadian Lance Stroll drove skillfully throughout the race. The Dino Chiesa driver, starting from the fourth row, kept a great rhythm, eventually placing his Zanardi in fourth position. English George Russell, leader of the standings, crept in the shadows of the background, finishing only ninth. In the end, it was Alessio Lorandi winning with almost 3 seconds of vantage on Illett and 4 on Sitnikov. The KF2 pre-final started with Max Verstappen in pole position and Felice Etienne at his side. Right from the start, Verstappen didn't really have any issue in keeping his position, taking the lead of the race. Behind the Dutch driver, the Top Karts driver Kevin Lavelli, followed by CRG driver Felice Etienne. The challenge for the victory was never really fought, with Max Verstappen prompting the race with his highly performing laps and speeds. Lap after lap, the intrepid pilot gained vantage on his pursuers. In just 3 laps, Kevin Lavelli and Felice Etienne had to make do with the challenge for the second place. This duel was won by just a handful of milliseconds by Lavelli. The Englishman Tom Joyner came in fourth. It will be the last round of finals to decide who will be the champion of each category. We start from Mini 60, where the would-be champions amass upon each other for the last sprint. Pietro Mazzola, behind the wheel of his hero kart, is in pole position. At his side, Devlin De Francesco on top kart. The two were the protagonists throughout all of the weekend. With them also Leonardo Lorandi, at the wheel of a Tony kart, takes the second row next to James Poole. Lorandi takes off like a rocket, conquering the lead of the final race. Behind him, the beautiful dash of Eliseo Martinez carries him from the fourth row to the second position, behind Lorandi. Mazzola, Reicher and De Francesco follow. On the second lap, Mazzola attacks Martinez for the second place. Martinez and De Francesco fight a harsh duel for the third place. Once in command and taking advantage of the melee behind him, Leonardo Lorandi surges forward, taking the long distance on the group of pursuers. Over time, the head of the race thins out and gaps among pilots open up. On the finish line, Leonardo Lorandi triumphs with almost 2 seconds on Antonio Mazzola and Delvin De Francesco, third. On the podium, the satisfaction of the 3 protagonists. With this success, Leonardo Lorandi becomes champion of WSK Master Series. In KF3, starting from the pole position, is the brother of Leonardo, Alessio Lorandi. Next to the baby race pilot is the Cosmic driver Luca Corberi. Behind them, Callum Millett and Martin Kodrick line up in the second row. At the green light, Alessio Lorandi mimics his brother and flies ahead, conquering the head of the race. Behind him, the English Ilott takes the second position, followed by the Russian Sitnikov, the Canadian Stroll, and Martin Kudryk. Lorandi tries immediately to gain some serious vantage. Ilott is indeed a very dangerous opponent. Behind them, Lance Stroll attacks Sitnikov successfully and conquers the third position with his Zanardi. The challenge for the third place is hot, and during the third lap, the Croatian Martin Kudryk joins the fray. The standings leader, George Russell, will end the race in 7th position and will have to kiss the champion title goodbye. It is now Ilott leading the standings, even if at the end of the pre-final, Ilott was excluded from the rankings due to a technical non-compliance with his kart. Thanks to the demanding pace imposed by Alessio Lorandi, the head of the race thins out, and in the closing laps, Lorandi, Ilott and Kudryk just have to manage their advantage. Alessio Lorandi wins the last final and goes on the podium with the English Callum Ilott and Croatian Martin Kudryk. Now the sport court will decide whether to assign the title to Lorandi or to Ilott. From KF3 to KF2 with a quick Max Verstappen starting from pole position. Beside the Dutch driver, we find Kevin Lavelle, while Verstappen's direct rival in the championship, Felice Etienne, is right behind him in the second row. When the race starts, Verstappen leaves no hope to the opponents, winning the lead in front of Felice Etienne, Kevin Lavelle, Tom Joyner and the Polish Karol Bach. The tactic of Max Verstappen is well known. Whenever the Dutch driver takes the lead, he pushes ever harder on his kart. This is what happens now, where Verstappen, with a series of fast laps, opens up a good gap, while opponents can do nothing to contrast him. With his strategy, Verstappen is able to take off and just drive alone in first position in just a few laps' time. Behind him, the duel for second place is between Kevin Lavelle, Felice Etienne and Karol Bach, with wild cards turning up at each corner. From the back alleys, the Swedish Robin Hansson, starting on the 20th grid position, overtakes his adversaries and gains the 6th place. A noteworthy recovery. During the 12th for 20 laps, Kevin Lavelle calls it quits, abandoning the fight for the second step of the podium. This just leaves Karol Bach and Felice Etienne to compete for the second position. Eventually, a great Max Verstappen conquers both the victory and the title, ahead of Karol Bach and Felice Etienne. A great satisfaction for a pilot who, right now, has no real opponents.
I'm really happy to win the Master Series. I never won this one before, and yeah, I want to say thank you to Intrepid and GFR Engines for the great support they gave me, and yeah, we show that we are really fast in Cave 2.
The first of the two KZ2 finals finds the Czech driver Jan Miderla in pole position. Beside him is Alberto Cavalieri's BRL BRM. Behind them, Riccardo Negro and Marco Zanchetta start from the second row. Miderla has no problems in taking the lead in front of Cavalieri, Zanchetta and Negro, with Celenta chasing. Miderla shows everybody his BRL speed, earning a security advantage in just a small time. Behind him, the English Lennox Lamb offers a great show. 7th at the end of the first lap, he makes a beautiful comeback that will place him in second, just when 3 laps are missing to the end of the race. Beside Lennox Lambs, another revamp is noteworthy, the one by Francesco Celenta, which places his BRL in the 3rd position. On the finish line, Jan Miderla wins the first final, ahead of Lennox Lamb and Francesco Celenta. In Final 2, Jan Miderla, starting from the pole position, and the Lithuanian Sismas Jodrovisis beside him. Behind them, Matteo Guidella and Francesco Celenta. The green lights leave everybody doubtless. It is Miderla gaining the lead, but this time the Czech driver must reckon with the Italian Francesco Celenta, driving his very same kart. During the second lap, the Italian driver overtakes the Czech one, taking the lead of the race. Behind Jodrovisis, we can find Matteo Guidella and Lennox Lamb, who, once again, is the author of a nice revamp, which takes him from the 5th to the final 3rd place. In the first positions, the challenge for victory remains hot until 3 laps from the end, when Francesco Celenta is able to kiss Mitterla goodbye by gaining almost a second of advantage, thus ensuring him the victory. On the podium, the great satisfaction of Francesco Celenta at the second success in the Masters, while the champion's crown goes to the English Lennox Lamb.
I'm very happy to take the championship home for CRG, and Maxter is a really positive thing for us as the engines are prepared from home, not from any tuner, so it's a really positive thing for the KZ department in Maxter. The consistency has been very good all through 3 races, so we're really happy to be consistent and very strong, and we hope a very good race in the Euro Series.
Finally, the KZ1 goes live with its first final. Federer confirms his ability right off the bat. The pilot of Bolzano takes the lead ahead of Jory Pex, Marco Ardigot and Yannick de Brabander. On the finish line of the second lap, de Brabander attacks Ardigot and earns the 3rd place. The several times Tony Kart champion has some difficulty in keeping the same rhythm as the head of the race. And while the first 3 positions fly away, Ardigot struggles to contain the attacks of Patrick Hayek and Bas Lammers. The first to pass under the flapping checkered flag is Fabiano Federer, who wins the first final with a second advantage over Jory Pex. The 3rd place is occupied by the Belgian Yannick de Brabander. In the second and last final, the KZ1 Dutchman Jory Pex springs forward from the pole position with the Belgian de Brabander at his side. Fabiano Federer and Bas Lammers start from the second row. Jory Pex keeps his edge and conquers the head of the race right from the start. Federer, Hayek and Paolo De Conto are behind the CRG driver. Once in the leading position, Jory Pex heightens the pace of the race, causing Federer to fall behind, even if throughout the weekend he was able to keep impressive lap times. Behind him, de Brabander and Paolo De Conto managed to keep behind them the Italian Ardigot. Luckily for him, his direct rivals in the rankings are not able to do any better. Kozlinski is 6th, while Dresen is out of the race. Under the checkered flag, Jory Pex captures the last victory of the Masters Series ahead of Fabiano Federer and Yannick de Brabander. On the podium, the satisfaction of Pex, Federer and de Brabander, while Marco Ardigot, with 5th place, celebrates his first seasonal champion title.
I'm really pleased to have won this championship. It's a good start for me and for the team. We hope that the WSK Euro Series will begin in the same way.
At the end of the 3rd and final round of WSK Master Series, the standings go like this. The Mini 60 champion is Leonardo Lorandi with 154 points. Second placed, Pietro Mazzola with 135 points. Eliseo Martinez third with 95 points. The KF3 champion is the English Callum Millett with 157 points. Second placed, Alessio Lorandi at 147 points. Third place for English George Russell with 133. In KF2, the title goes to Max Verstappen with a loot of 220 points. Second place for Felice Etienne with 135 points. The English Tom Joyner, third with 67 points. In KZ2, WSK Master Series champion is the English Jordan Lennox Lamb with 159 points, followed by Jan Midderla with 127. Third place for Francesco Celenta with 120. Finally, the Queen category, the KZ1, crowns Marco Ardigot champion of the WSK Master with 119 points, followed by the Dutch Jory Pex with 103 points. WSK will be back on track the next 15th of April on the International Circuit of Naples for the first Euro Series 2012 round.